Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of our Tomahawk. We have forged our Tomahawk and now we are getting ready to clean this up, to harden and temper and put a handle on it. And I cannot stress, one of my big surprises is just how much grinding was a part of blacksmithing. We think about it, making swords and knives, but the big grinding stones back in the day were, an essential feature of any blacksmith shop. So what I'm doing here, I've got one of the big ceramic belts, and I'm actually doing a little bit of shaping here. You can come in with a hammer and take a bunch of heats and waste a bunch of fuel to try to get that edge perfect, but really to shape it and to profile it, hard to beat the grinding stone. So I'm going to clean up the top and the bottom and also break the edges. Now here's the thing for you beginning smiths out there and even your knife makers. Don't let there be sharp 90-degree edges. I hear a lot of people talking about, the bushcraft knives with the sharp spines. Guys, that's actually a mark of poor craftsmanship. If you have a sharp 90-degree edge, it needs to be broken. It needs to be rounded. It adds to the appearance and the use of the item. So yeah, just don't be slackers. Don't let them tell you that it's a feature, not a bug. When you're grinding, you're making 90-degree cuts, break those edges flat out. Now, once it's profiled, I'm going to use this heavy 36 grit to start making the bevel on the front end. This can be done a little more scientifically. If you have a work rest, you can make this, very, very precise. Of course, precise is not anything I'm doing with this guy right here. So I'm basically just getting an initial bevel. I'm not sharpening it here, but I'm just knocking down all that metal so that there'll be a good cutting edge. Takes just a second, but more importantly, I want that edge to be like super nice and shiny. So cutting that clean edge with a heavy grit will allow me to go back in with finer and finer grits and make it very shiny. Not sure if I throw this at anybody, they're going to be concerned with the level of polish, but hey, it matters to me. Now, if you see what I'm doing right there, boys and girls, that is breaking the edge. That's making sure that all those sharp edges have a 45-degree cut on them. Just makes a better product. If you want to test your item to know if it's ready and finished, close your eyes and run your hands over it. If you feel sharp edges or pointy things, you need to go back and work on your piece. So I think she's looking pretty good. And I think now it's going to be time to harden this bad boy up. So since the only part of this that's high carbon is the edge, I just go straight into the coal fire, bring it up to the critical temperature, which is known as the eutactic point, and into a little bit of preheated canola oil. Now, with lower carbon steels like this 5160, I have been guilty of hardening and leaving it hard on that end of it. Like I said, I may do a little bit of tempering, but with that 5160, I have cheated in the past and gotten away with it, especially with these little tomahawks. I can't tell you the wisdom of that end of it, but I've been able to pretty much leave those as hard as quenched, and they've been very, very good cutting items. Now, have I scientifically tested this? No. In an ideal world, I would have dropped this bad boy into the forge, and I think with the 5160, it's only cooked at about 400 degrees, but I didn't. On this one, I just left it full quench hardness, and it's going to be a little bit of an experiment, but I'll let you guys know how it turns out. Now, a wire wheel, here's something I'm going to tell you guys. A wire wheel, if you're doing piece like this, a wire wheel is what really cleans this stuff up. The wire wheel allows you to get all that funky scale off of it, but not without having to remove the detail of the forgings. I'm a big advocate for wire wheeling. In fact, if you guys have seen the hammer video we did, you'll notice I'll actually sandblast to remove the heaviest scale, because let me tell you, if you've got really thick scale, even the wire wheel won't take it off. But sandblasting followed by the burnishing effect of a coarse wire wheel makes a good looking product. But now that we have finished all that stuff, what I will do is, using this rotary platen, thank you Ameribraid, I will go to increasingly finer grits. I think this looks like that's about a 220. And then finally down to a cork belt with a polish on it. And it should make that edge super, super shiny. Now, I'm being very liberal with my grinding. This edge is kind of thin, and so you do want to be mindful of heat buildup so that you don't actually draw the hardness out of it. But I'm being very liberal here. We have been at it for 2 weeks. I'm tired. I'm ill, so I'm making it happen. If I'm not seeing color, I'm good to go. You know, one of the amazing things about doing these voiceovers is, again, I'm able to actually be the peanut gallery for my own work. And I'm like, damn, son, you could have put a little more effort in. But we're going to make a nice piece anyway. So this probably, I think this is actually a 400 grit. You see I'm doing a little bit of the slack belt grinding here, very soft. The rotary platen is there to actually allow you to do a little bit firmer slack belt. I'm still learning it, still playing with it. So, but when I get down to like the 400s and I want just a little bit softer contour, I will still go up to the slack belt above the actual tool. Now, part of my problem is I was a jeweler for a while, and if I have a scratch anywhere, it's going to drive me nuts. So, you know, I think that's some OCD problems there, but hey, it works. This is a cork belt. This is a canvas belt that has been covered in cork. The great thing about cork belts is they allow you to have a little bit of sponge, and then also the thing is that you can apply actual polishing compounds to this. This particular cork belt actually replaces the leather strop that I would use to sharpen knives, because the finish is so particularly fine. So a couple of passes here, and this is going to make this thing. In fact, if you look close, you can already see that it's pretty much a mirror polish on that edge. It's super nice. Yeah, she's cutting good. Now, probably one of the more aggravating parts of doing all that work is actually making the handle. And the Tomahawk handle is a little bit more of a pain in the hind end than doing a hammer handle, mainly because you've got to have that taper. The idea of a Tomahawk handle is that it wedges in top. Whereas with a hammer handle, you have to cut the top of it and insert a wedge from the top side. A Tomahawk is designed to actually just slide up the handle and wedge itself firmly into place. I have just about worn that particular mirror braid out. I've got a bearing going out, so if it sounds like a coffee grinder, that's why. I've been too lazy to order the bearing, but now here's a neat trick. If you're doing a lot of handles, save yourself some aggravation for getting your stock round. Use your work rest, set it at 45 degrees, and actually take those corners off like that. Man, it makes life so much easier, and also your handles will be far more consistent. You're going to find quickly that like making a good handle is as much skill as making the axe head itself. So, again, making use of that slack belt to blend everything in. At this point, a lot of this stuff is by eye. And here's the other thing. If you'll notice, the handle is not square like a hammer handle. It's actually a teardrop shape. We want to get this bad boy close, and then a bit of friction fit. I'm shooting for about, like, to be able to get about 2, maybe 3 inches above the top of the Tomahawk without having to hammer it and then seating it. And there we go. A little bit of our linseed oil and mineral spirit mix. Rag it down. And we've got an attractive looking piece with a fancy pecan handle. Now only one thing left to do. Make sure this bad boy functions. And yeah! Still got it. Thank you guys for watching the video. Thank you. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you later.